What's going on? This is Tim Jackson with the Alliance for Black Economics Political Action Committee, and I am so excited to announce the launch of our PAC. Listen, you all, this is a long time coming. The official launch date is going to be January the 18th, 2025 at the African American Museum in Dallas, Texas at Fair Park. It's actually going to happen right after the MLK parade. So literally the MLK parade ends where we're going to have our event. So we're inviting everyone out. But me and Alan wanted to sit down and just talk about the PAC candidly to give you an idea of who we are, what we're about, and what we're expecting from you as supporters. You all, we're going to make this very simple and plain. For so long, people have kind of wondered what lobbying is, but they've never really understood it because Black people have been purposely kept out the loop of lobbying. You see, lobbying is an interesting tool in politics. In fact, most of the bills that you see or the laws that you see that are put into place are put forth by lobbyists. That's it. And a lobbyist is essentially someone who comes, or a group of people that come and say, hey, listen, this is what we need for our sector. Can you provide this to us? And then the politician will say yes or no. Typically, if they say yes, they say, well, here, as a group, we're going to give you a donation for X amount of money, and we expect for you to put forth our legislation. And as long as you put forth our legislation, we will support you and make sure that you continue to get in office. Sounds like pay for play? Because it is pay for play. And a lot of times in our country, we tend to pretend like we don't see what we see. But that is the definition of quid pro quo. And it's perfectly legal in a sense because you're doing it through an entity that can be monitored by the government. Now, there are rules and stipulations, and we are going to talk about that later on. But I want you to understand as Black people that it's time for us to approach politics completely differently. This 2024 election revealed a lot. One thing it revealed was that Black people have a lot of power when it comes to the vote in the United States. Some would argue that the votes were lost, or Kamala Harris specifically lost the election off 5 to 7% of the votes. And that's 5 to 7% of people just not showing up to vote. Now, those numbers may not be completely accurate, you guys. I'm giving you just a roundabout because I'm sure someone's going to be in the comments telling me how wrong I am because this is a taboo topic. But the fact of the matter is that she lost, and Black men specifically were getting the blame for it. But a lot of people didn't vote for her because she wasn't clear with her policies. And I often ask Black people who were upset about the outcome of that election one question: how much money did you give to her campaign? And typically it's a big fat zero. Now, I know within the Divine Nine, which makes up Black Greeks and sororities, they've raised about $3 million for her within 24 hours, which was very, very good from a fundraising standpoint. But being a part of a Divine Nine entity, my question in the group chat was very simple, and it was this: what specifically did we ask for in return for our $3 million? And no one could answer that question. It was typically, oh, man, just shut up and be quiet. Let's support this sister. Let's get behind her. You guys, that day is done. We can no longer support or get behind people just because they are Black. It's just not, it doesn't work. It's never worked because there aren't any policies being created. The day of hoping that someone's going to get into office and do right by us is over. Because the truth of the matter is that Kamala Harris has been in office for the last 3.5, 4 years and has not suggested policies that will impact Black people in a positive way. Now, some people are going to feel some kind of way about that, but I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I just follow the policy. And while I wish Kamala Harris well, and I hope that she can become successful in her own right, I would have loved to support her had she told me specifically what she's done and what she would do for the Black community and not just for people of color or marginalized people. We also need to get out of the idea or the notion that we're poor and that we're criminals, because most policies that get put in place for Black people have to do with poverty or criminal justice reform. And this faction is not going to focus on either. We will focus on matters of the court, but it's going to be more granulated, and it's going to dive more into child support reform, family law, things that are going to improve the lives of Black families. But any legislation that's legalizing or decriminalizing marijuana or any type of recreational drug, that's not our thing. We have no desire to involve ourselves, our time, effort, and energy about recreational drugs. It's just not our thing, right? anything that's dealing with criminal justice reform. We'll visit it to a certain extent, but more importantly, what matters to us is economics and equity. We want to focus on the things that came out in our poll, which has a lot to do with job training, skills training, being able to home ownership, child support reform, family reform, just things of that nature that we can get politicians involved in. But more importantly, the relaxing, the easing, or the elimination of laws that systemically put black people in positions to fail is going to be one of our main focuses. And if you're an elected official who continues to allow or continues not to speak about these laws while you're in position, we're going to do everything that we can possibly do to get you up out of there. All right. So with that being said, I want to bring in my guy, Alan Elliott. I serve as the president of our PAC. Alan's the vice president. We are both the founders. So you're going to see a lot from us, and you'll meet the other 3 members of our board and our subcommittee as well. If you haven't already, visit www.lobbyabe, which is LOBBYABE.org, and get registered and signed up for our events. And make sure you sign up so that we can communicate with you, because y'all know how the game works. When you talk the way we talk, it's not going to get a lot of traction. So, Alan, what's going on, man? Talk to me, man. How you feeling about the formation of this PAC?
Man, I'll be honest with you, man. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. We talked about this for a while, and, we finally have the opportunity to do something, right? No longer sitting on the sideline, nobody, wishing and hoping and, thinking that somebody's going to do something for us. Nah, we taking it into our own hands now. So I'm super excited about it. I'm looking forward to the 18th. And I'm looking forward to everything that comes with it after that.
I am too. I'm looking forward to our trip to D.C. in a week or two.
Yes, sir.
Looking forward to getting down to the State House. But, Alan, it's been a long time coming. This election has taught us a lot. 1, it taught us that we can no longer be passive.
Right.
2, it taught us that we can no longer support someone just because they look like us.
Right.
And that's something that a lot of people don't like to admit.
Yeah.
But, the truth of the matter is the candidate that looked like us was not the best candidate for black people. Not to say that the other candidate was either. I think they both were very interesting candidates, to say the least.
Yeah, I agree.
Neither one were my preferred choice. This was like choosing to be shot to death or stabbed to death, if I could be completely honest with you. But what made one person stand out more so than the other was that person's policies.
Yeah.
And that person's policies didn't negatively impact black people. And regardless of how people feel about it, I'm nonpartisan. I don't really care. But another person's party's policies have a long, rich history of a negative impact on black people. And that's why it's so important for us to actually get involved with policies and not people, because once you fall in love with a person, you'll look past their flaws and the things that they're doing that may not be benefiting you long term. And guys, politics should never be emotional.
Absolutely.
It should always be strategic. It should always be logical. For the greater part of my life, I have leaned more center. I voted for Republicans. I voted for Democrats. I always joke and say, when President Obama ran for office, he could have run with a pitchfork, a tail, and horns, and a devil suit, and he would have gotten my vote, my money, because it was emotional for me.
Yeah.
I wanted to see a black man in office. I wanted to get that hope. He sold that great vision and that dream of hope.
He did a great job.
He did a great job. And as a veteran, I benefited immensely from President Obama's policies, one particularly where he reformed the GI Bill, where I was able to go back to college, and they paid for my mortgage and they paid for my schooling. I just had to get it done in 3 years.
Yeah.
So that was the reason he got my vote the second time around, and the only reason he got my vote the second time around, because I was very disappointed with the fact that he didn't push for more legislation and more policies that protected black people. In fact, under his leadership, black people were attacked more physically and had more harm to them done through means of the government, if you will, than under any administration since Jim Crow.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like to talk about that because we have a nostalgia associated with President Obama, who
had nostalgia.
You said had.
Yeah, past tense.
Past tense.
Past tense, yeah.
Past tense. I think that once you start pulling back some of the layers, specifically his policy layers, and for me, it was the way that he wagged his finger at black people every time something bad happened to us and we spoke out about it, and how he would tell us to get back in our place.
And, you know, that's funny you say that, right? Because I felt similar to you did when he ran in 08. It's like, oh man, you know, change and hope, man. Yeah, let's do it. And then once he got in, you started to see, you know, some things happen. You know, the Trayvon Martin, when they hemmed up Skip Gates. It was a multitude of instances Mike Brown, you know, and
Flint water crisis.
Man, the list keeps going on, right?
Yeah.
But he sure cut that check for the banks, make sure they got bailed out, right? Auto industry as well. I remember there was an article that came out and they was like, man, you gonna come to the government asking for money, but y'all took 3 separate jets coming from the same location. Like, that's crazy, right? But yeah, that nostalgia.
Oh yeah, the auto guys.
Yeah, the auto guys. Yeah, that nostalgia with Obama's past tense, man, because he, I mean, any black man who sit there and says, you know, Trayvon could have been my kid, and then ask you to be calm and be quiet and relax. You know, like if that was my kid, we're all parents, right? Like
we're all
there's
parents.
no way
you would say that.
I would say that.
Yeah.
Right. And for him to say that to us, and then like you said, wag his finger multiple times at us, it was like, dude, man, get out of here, man. You know, kick rocks. Bro.
It was, and this is why, and a lot of people don't want to have this conversation, but it needs to be had. This is why you see a lot of black men have checked out of politics, and checked out of the democratic process altogether. And here's why. One, when we start to express our feelings and opinions about matters that genuinely impact us, we're told to be quiet.
Yeah.
We're typically told to be quiet by the people that we love the most and that we put up in positions to win and advocate for us.
And who was that?
I mean, it's just our elected officials. It doesn't matter. No one in particular. It's just.
I thought you was going somewhere else with that.
No, I'm not going anywhere else. I know what you're thinking, but no, I'm not going there. And then 2, there's a lack of support for black male issues in our community. The emphasis hasn't always been put on our women, which is not a bad thing because I have a daughter, I have a wife,
right.
Mother, you know,
same,
you know, sisters. However, you can't raise up one entity of a race and then completely abandon the other. And that's why it's so important for this particular faction to exist, because where emphasis is going to start is going to be with black boys, black men, and black families. We've gotten to a position now where people don't even want to say black anymore.
Yeah.
Out of fear of whatever. And the cool thing about us and this entity is that we are good financially, right? There's not much anyone can do to attack my money. I retired at the age of 37. I own real estate. There's not going to be one single tenant that's going to call me and say they saw anything that I put on social media offended them and they don't want to renew their lease. I've taught people for over a decade how to build and create wealth, insulate their money, lower their debt, and just be good stewards of their money so that they can speak up for themselves and do things and not be living paycheck to paycheck and be afraid to have a voice for themselves. So that's why we're able to start this entity, because no one's in our pockets. And even as a zoning commissioner and as someone who's operated a nonprofit in which Alan has, you know, helped me run it for the last 5 years, we rarely ask for people's money.
Rarely.
Yeah.
Rarely ask for money.
We put up our own money because we understand that when you're financially free, you can move a certain way. But for this, it's going to take all hands on deck. It's not up to me and Alan to change this situation. We're literally reaching out to any and everyone who feels the way we feel. If you're tired of being overlooked, you're tired of turning on the TV and seeing black men and black boys being killed, whether it's by the arms of police officers or the hands of police officers, or if it's at the hands of other black men, we got to do something about it. We have to hold not only the entities that we've put in place to control our lives, being government entities, accountable, but we also have to hold ourselves accountable. And that's not a pull up your boot by your bootstrap message. That's not what about black on black crime message. That's just accountability. Men have to step it up. We can no longer sit back and just allow everyone else to lead us while sitting on the sideline complaining, Alan.
Right. And that's part of the reason why, you know, the policies and the things that have been happening over the last 60 years have been in place, right? Because you have a faction of men that got comfortable with just kind of sitting back and kicking their feet up, thinking everything was sweet, right? Oh, segregation's over with now, so I can go and relax, right? That's unfortunately that's not how it works. So, once you kind of got that boot up off your neck, right, you got to keep it off your neck. You don't just lay down and relax so they can put the boot right back on it. So
and a lot of people have gotten comfortable. I think the biggest thing that we've done as black men specifically is we've gotten really comfortable. Yeah. And you should never know more about your favorite football or basketball team than you know about the elected officials that are controlling your lives.
I think that's we all know that's by design, right? Because again, if you know about your elected officials and you know who's put money in their pocket, then you're going to look a little differently.
I'm a little bit more cynical, Alan. I get what you're saying. I also get accountability. And I feel like that if me and you can have these types of conversations, because this is how we've always talked.
Always.
And we love sports. Like we can talk sports and video games.
Absolutely. And
sit around the cigars and have a good time talking music all day long. But we approach that as the cherry on top. And the other conversations about life and politics and policies is the cake.
Yes, sir.
And we have to, as black men, we have to shift that narrative. I'm not telling you to completely abandon the things that bring you joy. I'm saying that you should put them off on the back burner for a little time.
Yeah, they shouldn't be a priority.
They shouldn't be a priority because as a black man right now, living in America, we are collectively losing. We make the lowest money per capita. We're the most unemployed. We're the most arrested and criminally charged. Yep. Our children in schools, specifically our black boys, have the highest disciplinary rates. I can go on, and we're going to be putting out a lot of these statistics to have these conversations. Black mothers and black grandparents and black fathers are more fearful of how their children, their boys are going to be approached when they leave the home. Fear is at an all-time high. I'm as a parent, I can't tell you how much I worry about my son when he leaves my home.
Oh, man, same here.
And the interesting thing about it is most of the times the people that sailed him up the river look just like him.
Be the first ones.
In the education system, in a lot of places. And that's why it's so important for us to start this lobbying faction so that we can hold people accountable and force people to come to the table. See, I've been going into a lot of rooms lately that I normally wouldn't go into, Alan, because I just don't fool with certain people. But, there's a saying, and I'm going to keep it clean because we don't want to put off any negative connotations, but the people that don't do us well have the autonomy to have the loudest voices, whether it be in our music, whether it be in the presentation. The stereotypical black man is the one who's going to always get the platform and is going to always be the standard. I can't tell you how often I watch interviews after a football game and they never go get the straight A student black kid.
No, never do.
It's always the gutter hood, colloquialism guy who just don't represent me whatsoever, who gets the platform, and black people encourage it. We got to start disassociating ourselves from the culture that perpetuates the negative stereotypes that allow people to disenfranchise us. And now is the time. And there's men like Alan and I, and women as well, who are sick of it. And that's how this lobbying faction started. You want to weigh in, brother?
Nah, man. Listen, you over here preaching, bro.
Dun, 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 dun.
Got that turbocharged two-step.
Hey, man.
No, but, you put it in terms where, like I said, it was, as Stephen A. Smith would say, eloquently.
Eloquently.
Right? Nah, because we do focus on the wrong things. We don't prioritize the things that we need to prioritize. We hustle for the cherry and not to bake the cake, right? And if we bake the cake, then the icing and cherry is gonna be easy.
Easy,
right? But we got to put that work in, man. That's what we got to get back to. We got to get to putting in the work. Standing on, as the young people would say, standing on business.
Standing on business.
Right? And doing what's right, doing what we need to do to better ourselves in our community. So this pack couldn't be more on time. This is a passion now that has, I haven't felt like this since, when I launched my own company. And, I was up till 5 a.m. last night, just thinking through things, documenting stuff, putting stuff on paper. So, we serious, man. We getting into it.
So guys, just a high level overview. We've started a political action committee, the Alliance for Black Economics Political Action Committee. We're going to focus on vertical issues that impact black boys, black men, and black families. We're going to say black a lot. If black offends you,
Blackity, black.
we're not for you. Every other group can say who they are except black people. It's been interesting intertwining with some elected officials in my city that I may or may not know personally, who act like they're afraid to say black. But they weren't afraid to say black when they asked us to vote for them. And now they're in these positions. Can't we all just, get along type of thing,
Yeah.
And a constituent is a constituent is a constituent. So my power is just as more powerful than the next person. And if I can put my money behind it, it's going to be even powerful. And what I'm noticing is that a lot of elected officials where I live who have gotten wind to what we're doing are starting to feel some kind of way because they know the accountability is coming. We're 100% nonpartisan. I'm not a Democrat, nor am I a Republican. I think I'm registered as a Democrat here in Texas because I registered at 18. And you got to pick a side,
You got to pick a gang.
Got to pick a gang, right? You know what I'm saying? And so, but I vote in the center. I voted for every type of candidate that's appeared on the ballot because I vote for policy. And that's what we want to teach you. We want to teach you to unmarry yourself or divorce yourself from political parties and to start making demands of candidates. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. If you're black, you're not getting any policies anyway.
Right.
Right.
I want to go back to something you just said, right? Because, you talked about being registered since 18. I'm on that spectrum of the dudes who was just like, man, it ain't going to benefit me either way. Right. So, I think it was probably about 2 years ago when I registered to vote.
Wow. For the first time?
For the first time.
At 38.
38.
That's interesting. And that's common. That's a lot of black men don't vote.
Absolutely. And the only reason why I registered to vote is because it was a local councilman that, I built a relationship with. And, I said, all right, I'll support him. Right? I vetted him, talked to him. Some areas a little sketchy, but otherwise he was pretty solid. So I registered to vote just to support him. But
you also gave him money, though.
Yeah, I definitely gave him money. I papered him up so he can, run his campaign. But, I was, like some people out there, one of the guys who's like, man, it ain't gonna benefit me, man. I don't know why I'm even doing it. What's the point, right?
Yeah.
So why, you're gonna exercise your right to vote, right? If you're gonna exercise, you just run into place. You're on a treadmill. You're not going anywhere. You're not getting anywhere.
That's deep,
right? So that's why I just felt like, nah. I just knew it was something. I just didn't know what. And then over the years, through conversations you and I had, and other people, and then I started to see that, wait a minute, how can they do that? How are they doing that? And then I start researching. I start seeing, so this is how. Stand your ground laws were passed in every single state damn near the same way. And this is how, certain politicians are in place and they have, certain leanings, even though they are not even from that same culture or demographic, right? So I just found it to be very interesting. Yeah. That's when I learned about lobbying and what the importance of it was. So, the approach we're taking, it's game changing. We're going to probably ruffle some feathers, right?
Oh, we've already ruffled some feathers. I've gotten a few text messages and calls. People telling me I should tone down what I'm doing and be careful not to offend anybody. And my thing is, don't none of y'all pay my bills, and you've never supported me financially on my road to financial freedom. And I could care less about how you feel. It's accountability season. If me speaking up for black people and demanding policy is going to offend you, then maybe we shouldn't be in the same space.
That's always interesting, right?
Yeah.
That people who didn't put a dime in your pocket want to tell you what to do and how to do it and what you should tone up or tone down.
That's life.
It's crazy.
It's crazy,
right?
It's crazy. But the thing about it is that a lot of people think like us, Alan.
Yeah.
There's a lot of men and women in the black community who feel the exact same way that we feel, but there's a lack of trust because they don't trust the elected officials to do the right thing.
Yeah.
They don't know the right businessmen and women to do the right thing. When they put their time, effort, and energy into a public figure who's really good at marketing and may have a blue check, but they have bad intentions and they end up scamming people. I'm not going to say any names, but You know, the real estate guy in Atlanta comes to mind first. Then there's this. Well, I get sick of dealing with black folks. Black people are always this. Black people are always that. Well, newsflash, you're black people,
right?
And people look at you the exact same way. So while you're sneering your nose up at the other black folks that's done did us wrong, society is looking at you just like them. And that's why this lobby is so important, because it's time for us to separate ourselves from a culture that hasn't benefited us. It's time for us to make demands from our elected officials and change the way that we approach politics. Because since civil rights, black people have been docile. We've been passive. We have literally just rolled over and laid down since the passing of civil rights legislation. And I think about how thousands of black people came together and didn't ride the bus for a year and bankrupted the bus system. How thousands of black people would sit in at restaurants. Well, I have my own theories on that. I understand why equality was so big, but we're not going for equality. We're going for equity. I don't care how you feel about me as a person. If you want me to stand next to you in line, run me my check and put me in a position to be able to make money so that I can create means for my community and I can depend less on you as a government. And it's interesting that when I talk to Democrats about this, they don't like it. But when I talk to Republicans about it, they're all on board.
They're all for it.
And that's why a lot of black men are switching parties. Now, again, I don't subscribe to any party. I don't think that any party benefits black people at all, regardless if there's a lot of black people in the Democratic Party. You have to ask yourself, what are they doing from a policy standpoint to help black people?
Right.
And once we start pulling back those layers as you continue to follow us, you'll see it's nothing. So now it's time for us to hold people accountable. And now it's time for y'all to get on board and stop sitting behind on the sidelines and complaining. And how are we going to do that, Alan? Well, we have the 35,000 strong initiative. Do you want to explain what that is?
Sure. So basically our 35,000 strong initiative is we're looking for 35,000 people in the United States, right, to donate $25 a month for a year. That $10 million that we amass from that will go directly to lobbying, local, state, and then ultimately federal campaigns. So again, the things that we talked about, you and I, Tim, like why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? Why wouldn't you want to see things that will change and benefit you, right? Like we talk about, I know we can go on and on about, we got disposable income for this and for that, but, we're only 13, 14% of the population, right? Now, but we don't even have 13 and 14% of the equity or the wealth in this country, right? So let's start there. Let's get to 13, 14% of the wealth, and then we cook them with grease, right? And we can start having a different conversation, start moving and shaking in a different manner.
$10 million. What y'all gonna do with that money? Y'all finna go out and buy some houses?
We're gonna buy some chicken wings. We're gonna buy some houses. I'm gonna give me some new Jordans. Nah, I'm kidding. But that money really is going towards lobbying, right? Hey, Mr. Politician or Mrs. Politician, here's our platform and our stance. Are you going to support that? Are you going to advocate for us? And if not, okay, we'll bring in the next one. And that person, if they say they're going to advocate for us, that's where the money and the votes go. If you're in office right now and you're just keep it PG-13, you're BSing and you're not advocating for our policies on our behalf, then we're going to run somebody against you, right? So that's what the money's going to come from, and then it's going to go directly towards developing policies that can then be put in the hands of politicians so that they can pass it, and then we'll hold them accountable.
And in full transparency, the way we're going to collect our funds for our group is going to be a 90-10 split. 90% of the money will go towards lobbying. The other 10 will be administrative. It's going to cost money. We need resources. We're going to have to go out of town. We're going to have to have a facility. There's money that goes with running a business. And if anyone in here doesn't understand that, then we're not for you.
Right.
We don't have a desire to collect your money and run off. My name is too good in these streets. Anybody who's ever done business with me, have dealt with me on the city planning commission level, the nonprofit level, business level, I got my own money. I don't need to scam anybody out of the money. But when you get black folks talking about money, Alan, it's going to always be them. Well, who go hold? No.
Yeah, they want the itemized receipts.
They want the
they want the invoices. We want to know how much you paid. Did you take out the 8.25% in taxes?
What you go to QT for?
Did you give me a water too? Like, no, man, this is what it's for. But I want people to take a moment and look up, right? That split that you traditionally see with, your other nonprofits, right?
It's typically inverted.
It's 100% inverted.
It's typically, and we're not gonna call no nonprofits out, but just on your own free time, I want you to look up your favorite national nonprofit and see how much the CEO is making, and see how much money is actually going back into their cause. And then come back and holler at us about our 90-10 split, because typically black people always have to go over and above to prove that we're not doing something we ain't got no business doing. Ain't none of us. We have an attorney, a well-known, respected attorney on our board. We have another well-known and respected nonprofit operator on our board. And we have a man who specializes in accounting on our board, including Alan, who's an IT specialist, has a company. And then you have me, you know, with everything I do in real estate, film, etc. So our board is rock solid, but if you got something to say about it, we ain't for you. We not finna sit up here and even have that conversation.
We ain't buying no black houses.
No, we not buying no black houses and no commercial real estate and finessing folks. And if we do, pull up on us and hold us accountable. I give you full autonomy to pull up on me and hold me accountable. All right, now come right. All right, because I'm gonna come right. But that's who we are. That's what we're about. But I want to tell you something before we wrap this up, Alan.
Yeah.
What do you personally seek to gain as far as an end goal for your life and your family with this lobbying faction?
Man, that's a real good question. Ultimately, not just for myself, my family, but for my people, right? Because that's what I really do it for. You know what I mean? Like, my family, they're a byproduct of that, right? Yeah. So whatever I do, like, they're going to be good regardless. But it's not just about me individually. It's about the collective. So what I hope to get out of it is better policies that benefit specifically us. You know, we can get away from these, you know, lift all programs and, you know, rising tide, lift all boats, right? But, you know, we got a boat and they got a hole in it, right? So we ain't going up that much farther, right?
Right.
So let's plug that hole in that boat, right? Let's put an engine on that boat, and then let's make sure that boat is risen by us and for us, right? Not saying we, you know, everybody else, they have their thing and they have their method of, you know, getting their policy and stuff advocated for, but, you know, it's time we be a little self-centered and talk about us.
It's definitely time to be self-centered and talk about us. It's definitely time to not be afraid to say black. It's definitely time for black men specifically to come out of the shadows and start being a part of this process and taking back the voice that has taken over and start to speak for us, specifically in the political space. Because if we're going to be completely honest, there are a lot of weak black men in politics advocating for black men in the real world.
100%.
And a lot of these weak black men in politics advocating for black men in the real world have no desire whatsoever to see us thrive. And they're dealing with other lobbying factions that are greasing their wheels in their campaigns, and they have no desire to create policies that's going to benefit black people. What were you going to say?
No, you're 100% correct, right? So just know that when you, on the 18th, when this launches, like, there's going to be a ton of other people saying, oh, well, you know, I got this pack over here that's talking about, you know, ramen noodles. Like, we don't care about ramen noodles, man. Like
I mean, since we've started this, we've had someone attempt to co-opt what we're doing.
Yeah.
Who I loudly called out and told that I'm good on your support. We got to be able to hold people accountable. There's this thing within our community where it's called hating when you tell a man that he's doing something that he shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have gotten into positions, whether it's through voting or whether it's through people's ignorance, and a certain persona has been created about them of being a certain way. And then when you start pulling back the layers, they're no different than the people that you feel like have been disenfranchising you because they benefit from your disenfranchisement. And we're going to call that out very strategically, very methodically, and accountability is going to be our thing. And if you feel some kind of way about accountability, this is your time, this is your season to get right. Because if you don't get right, you're going to get left behind. And we're going to do everything that we can, specifically if you're an elected official, to get you up out of office the right way by running a candidate against you who's going to be for the causes that matter to us and that can represent their constituencies the right way. Our causes do matter. We're not going to sit on the sideline anymore and be quiet as we watch our kids get disenfranchised in schools and out in the city, in the county, at the state, get thrown in prison overwhelmingly. And while, again, we're not focusing on criminal justice reform per se, but we are going to be focusing on getting some laws changed that impact how we are policed and how things are done. And let me make this very clear. And I'll say this with a firm belief. I ain't got no problem with the police. I can't imagine a world without law enforcement because it would be chaotic. I do have a problem with rogue actors within the police department who overzealously use their power to disenfranchise people that look like me, and they have to be dealt with the right way, specifically legislatively. But when you really peel back the layers of law enforcement, the answer is in the phrase law enforcement.
Right.
And if they're enforcing laws that don't benefit black people, at what point in the game are black people going to demand better laws? You can overhaul a police department. You can, defund the police, which I think is corny. It's just a catchphrase to get your emotions, tied up in a bunch. But if you rehire 1,000 more police and get rid of the ones you have, they're going to still be enforcing the same laws.
Right.
So at what point in the game do we say, how about we change that law so that they can enforce it differently? And then they can be held accountable, they being the ones who are rogue, they being the ones who are doing things they shouldn't be doing. And their peers are going to be the ones that are going to enforce that because they don't want to be seen in that light. You see, everybody who's black knows a black police officer. Is that, for the most part, would you say that?
100%.
All the black cops that I know join the force to make a difference in their communities, right? And many of the ones that I talk to say, man, these laws, like, bro, we just enforcing the law. Yeah. And what we gonna do? We can't change the law. We are law enforcement. And I never forget when someone said that to me and a light bulb went off like, well, dang, we got to change the laws.
Yeah.
But see, when you're dealing with the police, with black people, it's always the knee jerk, this cop shot this kid or this guy did that. And in most cases, it's wrong. But the recourse is never validated because we go after the wrong thing. We're not focusing on the actual laws. The same laws that protect people when they disenfranchise us are the ones that are going to be kept in place if we don't say anything about it.
Right. It's the sleight of hand trick.
There you go. And so I'm just putting that out there. You can call me a coon if you want to, because I say I ain't got no problem with law enforcement. A coon is a person who directly goes against his people to benefit himself and to help other races. You can never find me on record doing that. I'm a person that's going to say what makes sense based on my experiences. And I'm also going to be empathetic to situations that impact people. But the fact of the matter is, everybody can probably admit that a couple of days without no police would be a pretty chaotic day.
Didn't they have that out there on the West Coast in was it Portland?
Yeah.
Man, it was crazy out there.
You know what I'm saying?
That when they had the little Occupy Wall Street thing out there,
yeah,
and they was out there in Portland. Man, listen, just take a look at that.
Just take a look at that. So we ain't here to shame or bash anybody. We here to hold everybody accountable.
They all can get it.
Anybody can get it. This isn't where a lot of movements, specifically ones geared towards black people, fall and fizzle, is when it's made to be emotional, and there's no real skin behind what it is you're doing. It's just, well, we need to defund the police. Okay, and then what's gonna happen? We gonna have no cops? Well, no, we gonna put more social workers out there, and we're gonna get them guns.
Yeah. How you gonna pay the social workers?
How are we gonna pay the social workers? Like, how about we change the laws? How about we do that? So that's what we on right now. Man. That's what we on. So, man, listen, I'm excited. January 18th is right around the corner. You guys make sure you register at www.lobbyabe.org. Get signed up so you can receive our text messages and emails. We need you to become one of the 35,000 strong. You guys, less is more. There's 35,000 people within a 1 mile radius of where we're sitting right now here in Dallas. So that's not a lot of people whatsoever. But we're looking for a specific group of people who are tired of complaining, who are tired of bumping their gums. We're not looking for any activists. You know who you are, you fake activists out there looking for a photo shoot, looking to get seen.
Yeah, chasing ambulances.
And in the moment it's time to put the money up, or actually go down and hold people accountable,
they start patting their pockets.
You start patting your pockets and start shuffling your feet. We don't need any activists, okay? We need an actionist, somebody that's got a track record like Alan and us have with Real Youth Mentoring, where we've sent boys to college, where we've helped families whose houses have burned down, We're taking boys on trips out of the states to see certain things that they've never seen, and expose them to things where we can show a track record where we've given away thousands of dollars in scholarships and assisted people in their need. We're looking for people like that. We're looking for men who are tired of sitting back in the shadows and allowing other people to speak for them. Men who are tired of watching things. You know who you are. You sat up during this election at that barbershop complaining for 6 months straight. Well, it's time for you to get up out the chair and start doing some work. That's who we're looking for. We need men like you. 35,000 people to donate $25 a month for the next 12 months and beyond, so that we can raise the $10 million in the first year.
Yes, sir. So
that we can start impacting the election cycle for 2025 and 2026. We're getting ready to start identifying the elections that are coming up. We don't create slate cards. We create accountability cards, where we're going to sit down and talk to these people who are running for office, whether they're in office or not in office, ask them specifically where they stand on issues that impact black boys, black men, and black families. And we're going to draw a line in the sand. And that's going to be the blueprint. We're going to teach you how to do it, no matter where you're watching from. If you're watching me from Seattle, Washington, or Miami, Florida, the blueprint's going to be the blueprint. And we're going to make sure that you understand this blueprint so you can do the exact same thing. Our goal is to spread this lobby nationwide by the 2028 election and be a super PAC, so that you can start seeing our commercials on national TV. It's happening, and we're about to do it. Are you going to be a part of history, or are you going to sit on the sidelines and complain about not getting in the game? It's up to you. What you got, brother?
Man, you closed it out perfectly. So January 18th, make sure you come out. Let's make history, man. Let's go get it. Let's do it.
Get registered on the website, take our training, share this podcast, share this video, and let's get to work. Let's get it.